Hello world, Cossy here. Now, for those of you who don't know, today the Oscar nominations were announced, and while it's fantastic for a lot of people and films and companies involved in the industry, there's one area that I have a really big problem with. So it's time for another episode of Cossy Rants. Now, the one area that I have a problem with is the Best Director category. Now, as far as I'm aware, how the Oscar nominations go is that directors nominate for their category, actors nominate for their category, and the Best Picture category, everybody gets a nomination. And the problem with this directors category is that 3 directors that should be up for an Oscar, one in particular I've already stated very recently should be up for Oscar for Best Director, aren't. And those people are Ben Affleck for Argo, Christopher Nolan for The Dark Knight Rises, and Quentin Tarantino for Django Unchained. Now, God knows why these 3 guys aren't up for an actual Oscar for 3 movies, 2 of which I've seen already, one of which isn't out in the UK yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing. And from what I've heard is fantastic. The other 2 are fantastic movies, beautifully shot, beautifully put together, just brilliantly directed, acted, everything. Fantastic films, and should every day of the week, in my book, be up for an Oscar. Now, the only thing I can think of is that directors are being snobby towards these 3 people. I mean, it's not definite. This is just my opinion after all. But let's look at it. Ben Affleck, a former VJ on MTV, become actor, become screenwriter, become director. He's not exactly the in name in the industry, is he? Well, you know, a lot of people have been making jokes about Affleck ever since Daredevil, which we all know the cut that was released in cinemas wasn't a fantastic movie, unlike the director's cut, which, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It makes it a brilliant movie. Not perfect, but still a fantastic movie nonetheless. Next up, we've got Nolan, who's produced fantastic films constantly for the last 10, 11, 12 years. He's closed off his trilogy of gritty, more realistic Batman movies, each of which has been brilliant, and yet he doesn't get a nod. Is it because it's actually a superhero movie and it's not arty enough for the Oscars? I don't know. It's pathetic if that is true. Then we've got Tarantino. And Tarantino made what has been called by many people an amazing movie with a touchy subject. That touchy subject being slavery. And we all know that the Americans, with their brief history, and this isn't all of you America, I apologise, I'm not going to blanket you all, but a lot of Americans, in particular people in the media, do not like to talk about the negative side of their very brief national history. In particular, slavery being a massive part of that. So he makes a revenge film, cowboy, spaghetti western film with slavery elements running right the way through it. And whoa, what a shock. It's one of the best movies of the year. Some people are saying it's one of the best movies of all time, and yet he doesn't get the nod for Best Director at the Oscars. This is absolute nonsense. I'm sorry for my language. It's fucking bullshit. And people of the Academy, people out there in movie land, from someone who is a huge fan of movies, from someone who watches movies all of the time, who critiques movies and looks at the news of what's coming up for movies, for these 3 men to not be up for the Best Director Oscar is an absolute travesty. You need to sort your heads out, people who have voted for this, because it makes no sense to anyone who actually knows anything about movies. Okay guys, as always, thanks for watching. Click down there if you liked this video. Make sure that you check out my Facebook, Twitter and Tumblr. It's in the description below. Leave me a comment or a video response. There's a link to my last Cossy Rants. And until next time, au revoir.